Dear sisters and brothers, I really appreciate so many people's expression of own feeling. I dedicate my body, speech, and mind, well-being of others, as in my main daily practice. So when the people showing real own feeling, that gives me more sort of enthusiasm. Trust is basis of friendship. We are social animal. Friendship very important. Friendship cannot buy by money or cannot bring by force. Only wholeheartedness.
I haven't seen my uncle for 5 years. There's stuff to go in the small one. I'm not packed yet, and I've still got to print up some papers. The amount of travelling I do, I'm still quite hopeless at it. I am really excited about meeting him. I've kept pictures of the Dalai Lama up for a while now because I didn't know when I'd get an interview with him, or if I was pretty sure it would happen, but I didn't know when it would happen. It is really heavy. I'm really worried about the weight. Yeah, 1907, and I'm allowed 23. So maybe I'll be all right. I love drawing. I draw every day. When I was visualizing this, I made a drawing of the Dalai Lama in his sort of purplish, dark red clothes, meeting my uncle, because that's what I'd really like to happen. I've been wanting to tell this story for so long, and I've been working so hard to get out there. And it's not every day you get to meet the Dalai Lama, or indeed my uncle. So the chance to get out there is not only a dream come true, I don't feel any way prepared for it.
March 1959. Fighting breaks out and forces the Dalai Lama to escape the invading Chinese. Northeast India became known all over the world, for it was here in Tezpur that India received the Dalai Lama after his historic escape from Tibet. Presented with the white scarf, token of friendship, 7,000 people, including Indian high officials, waited to greet him in the hope of receiving the blessings of the mythical God King of Tibet. Escaping under the cover of darkness, the Dalai Lama had travelled for 2 weeks over the Himalayas along with members of his family and Tibetan officials. It was one of the most daring escapes in history. The Dalai Lama remained peaceful and hoped one day to return. Tibet is known as the rooftop of the world. Its capital, Lhasa, was traditionally the seat of the Dalai Lama and the Tibetan government. Born to farmers in Taxa, northeast Tibet in 1935, the current Dalai Lama is believed by Tibetans to be the reincarnation of the 13th Dalai Lama. The Dalai Lama was enthroned in Lhasa at age 15 as the temporal ruler of Tibet. Tibetans revere him as the incarnation of the Avalokiteshvara, the Buddha of compassion, divinity incarnate. The young Dalai Lama was discovered at his home at age 2. Following dreams and visions, the head monk showed the young boy the 13th Dalai Lama's mala beads and said, "If you know who I am, you can have it." The boy replied, "Sera Lama, Sera Lama," and he spoke in a Lhasa accent and in a dialect his mother did not understand. In 1949, the Chinese invaded and the Dalai Lama made 2 escape attempts. This is the story of what happened, told through the first-hand accounts of the Dalai Lama and Har Mander Singh. In 1989, the Dalai Lama became a symbol of peace, winning the Nobel Peace Prize, whilst being named as China's most wanted man. Perhaps with the challenges we all collectively face today, his knowledge and that of Tibetan spirituality is more relevant than it ever has been before.
China has used technology, many different forms of technology, from drones to artificial intelligence-enabled cameras, remote sensing, and an integrated kind of network of surveillance to make it nearly impossible for Tibetans to cross the border from Tibet into India. The wall doesn't have to be physical, it can be there and be digital and be invisible and block a region that people have almost forgotten about. Tibetans crossing the border had dropped from 3,000 to just 80 in 2017. I think a lot of the technologies and digital wall that are being used in Tibet are also being experienced and suppressing the Uyghurs in Xinjiang, perhaps to an even greater extent. And there are signs that some of the CCTV surveillance and definitely early forms of censorship are being used in Hong Kong, especially since the national security law came into place. So it's very concerning that what's happening in Tibet could likely be implemented in other parts of China, Hong Kong, and maybe other countries as well. China sees His Holiness the Dalai Lama as a threat. He has been a principled form of opposition, principled opposition from outside China for decades. He has gotten support from world leaders, he regularly meets with world leaders, and his moral standing is something that no matter what the Chinese government tries to do, they can't take him down, they can't destroy his moral standing because he has been consistently nonviolent. Having a photo of the Dalai Lama on your phone in Tibet is enough to get you arrested. And China now has the capability to survey the data that's on everyone's private phones. Just last week, 2 Tibetans who wrote a song that praised His Holiness were both sentenced to, I believe, 3 and 7 years in prison just for writing a song. It's not just a Tibet-China internal issue, as the Chinese government always tries to say it is. Ignore this, you should not be paying attention, it's internal. To me, it's deeply painful and a huge loss to kind of realize the extent of how much Tibetan cultural heritage has been destroyed since the occupation began in 1950. Thousands of monasteries, countless pieces of art or Buddhist scriptures have been destroyed. And that's important for Tibetan people, but it's also part of global heritage because that knowledge and that beauty is something that is shared among all of us. They've been teaching Buddhism and creating these cultural practices for centuries. It's one of the deepest repositories of human culture. I think it's important to value what they created and also understand that this knowledge can be useful in the modern world because we're dealing with huge environmental, human, social, and mental challenges. And I think this knowledge has something to provide us and something to teach us. And if we let it be destroyed in our lifetimes, I think in the future, the way we kind of look, we'll regret it for centuries, and we'll look at it the way we look at in the Americas, how we've lost so much native heritage.
I read 7 Years in Tibet by Heinrich Harrer while I was there. It explained what happened to the Dalai Lama and who he was and the whole thing. And when I came home, I bought copies and gave it to all my friends. I honestly believe all the Nobel laureate winners are modern saints because they've all gone through sheer hell and they've come out and they speak compassion and kindness and tolerance. Heinrich Harrer escaped. He and Auschwitz spent 2 years going through mountain passes and sleeping on ice. Once they arrived in Lhasa, the war was over. It was January 1946. Austria had been decimated. His wife had divorced him. Schneider had no family, and all they ever wanted to do in their lives was to be in Lhasa. Here is the Heinrich Harrer limited edition portfolio. This is the Dalai Lama's message of endorsement. All the caption information and messages are in English, Tibetan, and German. The Dalai Lama has signed each message of endorsement. And here we have a pecha. It's a Tibetan-style book. Harrer was one of the few people living in Lhasa in the twilight years of Tibetan freedom, able to photograph people and scenes from all walks of life. These photographs form a valuable record of Tibet as it was, and I am glad that they are being presented in this archival portfolio so that others may witness the contentment that was ours.
Wait outside, then you took me in the room, and you offered up the truth.
Burn tradition is the oldest spiritual tradition of Tibet. So according to the Burn history, or the oral history, it traces back more than 17,000 years. I was born in 1961. My parents left Tibet around 1959, and they came two different directions. So they met in India, and my father was a monk, actually, before from Gelug Monastery, one of the major Gelug monasteries in Tibet. The refugees, they really took some time for them to find a home. So they sent me in a Christian school, boarding school, and so I was, until 11, I was brought up there, and then around 11, then they took me out from the boarding school, and then from Christian boarding school to the monastery.
If you open this, the idea is that when you sit to read the caption information, it will take you into a different realm. A very important performance of tantric dance is called Segutar. This is a wrathful deity, and he is actually a very high monk. Bull's head goes back to the Bon religion. There's a lot of Bon religion in Tibetan Buddhism. So this is a tantric dance in which, and it goes on for days, in which the evil spirits are chased away with cymbals and fire and dancing to welcome in the new year. And this is taken in the courtyard of the Patala. The Dalai Lama would traditionally be at the top level, looking down.
We are like a worshipper of the elements, the nature. And so we believe that, destroying, polluting the nature, it's what, with all the new diseases and new problems that we are facing, it's also a provocation of the spirits. So if nature dies, we die. If we can connect with the living nature, we feel more living, we feel more alive. Some rituals are very much related with what we call it balancing the nature, the disturbances of the nature, or disturbances between human and the spirits. To awake our own innate qualities, the highest quality, can be only awoken by deep connection and deep connecting with the living nature, so that the living aspect of the nature will awake our own wisdom.
The interesting thing about Harrer was he was a young man, and he made friends with the Tibetans. They drank together at night. He taught everybody how to play bridge and built a tennis court. And he had very intimate photographs of the Tibetans. When expeditions would come in, they would stone the filmmakers. But when Harrer was shooting, they knew that he was shooting for the Dalai Lama, so he had access to vantage points that nobody else had. Harrer and another monk shared the ownership of the Leica C3 camera. The monk was caught taking pictures and demoted, so that was it. He was out. So Harrer had the camera, but he had no film. And at that point, the Tibetans asked Harrer to come in and translate German medicine that had been left by a 1939 expedition. So Harrer went in, and it was a German expedition, and he translated the labels. And at the same time, he found a canister of film. With the Leica C3, because they had a brass cartridge so that you could hand roll. So he figured out how long the film should be, and he hand rolled it under total darkness. And he went out to the Patala, and he shot the Patala in all different directions because he's a trained mountaineer, also a trained geographer. And he went into the marketplace, and there was a Mohammedan, he calls him a Mohammedan trader, who was photographing in the marketplace. And that Mohammedan trader processed one roll of film in Lhasa. At that point, he had met the young Dalai Lama, and the Dalai Lama was orchestrating film shoots for Harrer. So, he would tell Harrer exactly where to shoot and what to shoot and all the rest of it. And the movie film belonged to the Tibetan government, but the still film, Harrer's film, belonged to him.
Dalai Lama, you are a big shot. My job was to go and receive him, ensure his safety, and bring him back to the plains of India safely. Dalai Lama gave this to me, and this was printed, but there's his inscription in his own hand.
Wow.
That's me. That's my wife. And that's it. I had a hunch that I'm going on an important mission, and it would be useful to keep a daily record of the mission. That's Lhasa. And whenever I found respite, I dictated the day's events. I got a message from Mukti, dated the 31st, from Chutangmo CTM, his Chutangmo, and clear, telling us that the dignitary had entered Indian territory at about 3 p.m. and he was accompanied by about 80 men. It would be preferable if His Holiness goes through the Indian territory, and he should be told that he had already obtained Government of India's permission to pass through their territory. The Dalai Lama arrived at about 12:30 p.m. I received him and took him to his lodging. Sheikh Kempu has cabinet rank. 2 of the 3 Sharpes are ministers who are accompanying the Dalai Lama arrived in the afternoon. The ceremony was organized in the morning where the Dalai Lama gave blessings to the people of Loma. The journey starts here. As the crow flies, this is the one. We feel honored that you have sought asylum in our country, and I'm sure that the Prime Minister downwards are looking forward to your arrival and to your peaceful stay in our country. And this is all through his journey.
Wow, that's fascinating.
That's His Holiness, that's me, and this is an interpreter. And these are two people close to him. Of course, his food was handled under the supervision of his tutors and people like that. Dalai Lama had just started learning English.
Yes.
And during the journey, he would identify something with the English word. For example, if there is a flower, he would say flower, and then say as if he's conquered something. That's His Holiness, myself, troops and people. Yeah, just His Holiness is riding. This is the arrival of the mother. That's the mother, and then that's the young brother. That's my wife with the mother, and that's the representative of External Affairs Ministry, Intelligence Bureau. No lack of discipline. Everybody is along the route, but they have provided a lot of path for His Holiness to go. In villages, everyone knows everyone else. So if there was somebody to mix, he would be noticed. And there was tremendous fervor. They brought along the village bands, which means huge trumpets, which they blew as a sign of joy. And they also brought along a lot of incense. Sela Pass was 13,000-14,000 feet high, and it was a treacherous path, snowy even in summer months. And crossing it on ponies or on foot was an ordeal. You would have to take short steps, see that you don't fall, and cross boulders carefully. He was so absorbed from moment to moment. I have to send a message, I have to encrypt it, I have to decrypt it. So all my thinking time was taken up with these things rather than the responsibility, which I thought will sort itself out. There was one song we called Bombdilla Anthem.
Yeah. Can you sing it to me, please?
Okay, let me remember the words. Gil hai mushkil jeena yahan, zara hakke zara bakke, yeh Bombdilla meri jaan.
Bombdilla.
Gil, the gentleman.
Yes, his name.
Hai mushkil is difficult. Jeena yahan, here, to live here. Gil, it's difficult to live here. Zara hatke, go back. Zara bachke, save yourself. This is Bombdilla.
Ever been lonely? Ever felt out of place? Ever cried yourself to sleep at night, praying for descending grace? Ever danced alone in the moonlight, dancing like there's nobody there? The whole world could be looking on, but what do you care? You're dancing your prayer. Humaniversal. We're all reaching for the stars in the sky. Humaniversal. You and I. Ever been to India? Seen a world from ground zero. 13-year-old mother with a baby in arms, knocking on your taxi window. Lights change to leave us standing in the road. Still our eyes come back to haunt you wherever you go. Humaniversal. We can all hear her baby cry. Humaniversal. What about the Dalai Lama? What about that smile? Simple monk from the roof of the world. Living in exile, can't go back and can't go home. What does that say to you and me? He speaks of love and compassion, even towards his enemy. Humaniversal. Say a prayer for his people, Lord, you'll have it home tonight. Humaniversal. Say a prayer for him when you turn out the light. Tonight. Humaniversal. Humaniversal. You and I. And you and
I was told it would just be a few minutes, and I had him exclusively to myself all the way from his private residence for a while. And he showed me his favourite flowers, and he's now going to meet a select few people. And I held the Dalai Lama's hand.
Very well.
Yes.
This is what we call iris or something.
Yes.
Otherwise, very, very beautiful.
Yes. And
Very
these
beautiful.
ones?
And this also.
Yes.
Very good. Beautiful.
Uh-huh.
He, I think, sent some kind of telegram or something.
Yes.
And he mentioned, welcome you. We will provide all sort of help. So that's a great, that's a great moment.
Yes.
150,000 Tibetan refugee community.
Yes.
Quite well settled in the country.
Yes.
I think around 20,000-30,000 students, they also carry study. And for them, government of India, you see, create one sort of society. And at the beginning of the 59, when we escaped about, I think, 5,000 the monk students, we asked Indian government, you see, we need some special arrangement for these people.
Who are these people?
Oh, yes, sir.
Maybe some of them refugees. And, you know, they lived for the sight of the Dalai Lama, and it means so much to them, and the quietness with which they're waiting for him. You know, when you've read the stories about how people have suffered and how people have fled from Tibet.
Okay, so he started shooting in 1948. He left Lhasa in October, November 1950 when the Communist Chinese were invading. None of that film was processed until he left Tibet in 1951. And it was Life magazine that met Har Mander Singh at the pass and processed all the film that he shot while he was there. So you got 10-year-old film, no light meter, a used camera, a bad film plate, and then he kept it in a light-tight container, and it was processed years later. 1939 film, processed in 1951. That's amazing. And when he learned that the Dalai Lama was fleeing in 1950, he met him. And 1/3 of all the film is from the flight. This is the last photograph of the Dalai Lama taken in the Free Tibet.
On St. Patrick's Day 1959, the Chinese attacked the Nobilinka, the Dalai Lama's summer palace, firing 2 shells in its direction. A huge gathering, led by women, had surrounded the palace to protect the Dalai Lama. In the Dalai Lama's letter to the Prime Minister of India on the 10th of March 1959, he writes, "I and members of the Kashag were invited to the Chinese army headquarters in Lhasa, ostensibly to attend a cultural show. The people of Lhasa came to me and requested me not to go as they suspected foul play. As our lives were in danger, I and some of my trusted advisors and family managed to escape. In this critical situation, we are entering India via Tsona. After the invasion, the escape becomes a major story, and the people of the world wait to hear news of the mysterious God King." The brother of the Dalai Lama, the US President, the CIA, who had trained Tibetan operatives, and world leaders are in constant contact. The Prime Minister of India writes to the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom and states, "The situation has caused us much concern. Tibetans have been killed, and there is a lot of sympathy in India due to the historic close relations between our two countries." Prime Minister Macmillan responds, he believed there was a possibility the Chinese moves in Tibet could be part of a worldwide strategy of nibbling away at soft spots to expand communism throughout the world. The first escape. This time the Dalai Lama returned to Lhasa.
My age when I was 16. Previous Dalai Lama, his age 18, he took temporary responsibility, President Dalai Lama. So me also, he said, let me take more study. Then the situation is very difficult. Already the Chinese forces are already reached not only in Amdo and Kham, but that I think in 1949, soon after they established the People's Republic of China. Then those areas under Tibetan government jurisdiction, they start, so they send army, the Chinese army reached 1950. So things become very, very difficult, almost hopeless. So then the regent and also the people and our assembly, they unanimously, they felt now Dalai Lama should take the temporary responsibility. My first job is escape from Lhasa to Yatung. Of course, communication with our delegation, which carry the work for agreement with Chinese central government. We cannot communicate very far. So I heard the 17-point agreement signed. That I first heard in Yatung. Actually, our representative was a prisoner of war. He, as a head of the delegation, and signed. Anyway, then I returned with Chinese representative to Lhasa. Initially, we are very much sort of distrust or doubt. Then, 1954 autumn, I received an invitation from Chinese government to participate in Chinese National Congress, and I went. And about, I think 5-6 months I spent in Peking itself. During that period, I met Nabab occasion, Chairman Mao Zedong, and also many high officials. We become very close friends, particularly Chairman Mao Zedong. Then I developed full confidence. Now we can work. And actually, I very much attracted about Marxism, socialism. So one occasion, I expressed to one Chinese official, I want to join Chinese Communist Party. But then they say, wait, better to wait.
The second and final escape.
Then some crisis start from Eastern Tibet. Before the Oracle emphasis insists I should remain Nobulinga. Then the last moment, 17th, then Oracle also to say, now time come, leave. Exactly 10 o'clock, I left from Nobulinga. When I leaving Nobulinga, of course, there's a large number of people still guard. So, they won't allow me. So two officials, the previous few nights, they go checking these places. When I saw one Chinese soldier guarding their on the military camp with smoke and one light, looks completely relaxed. So then we feel, okay, they do not know now. So that night also, these two officials went to check. I, acting like these two officials, bodyguard, carry one gun. And go like that, follow these two officials. And at that time, one problem, already I wear this glass. So if I wear glass, people may notice, so without glass. So a little difficult with that gun. So more walks, that gun become heavier. Then I escape. Then you see these two officials, when they reach the gate, they shouting, oh, we are checking. Now open door, they open, they salute. And then go outside. So very, very tense. Then after they reach the other side of the river, then quite long road beside the river, the other side, the Chinese military camp. You can see the Chinese guards like that. So everybody, flesh no longer. Or in dark, like a demon, like ghost, we go like that. really dangerous, real danger is there. Danger on our life. So we already try to contact with Bhutanese. So if the downside is not favorable, and then we are trying to go to Bhutan, those southern border. Then we sent 2 delegations, one Bhutan side, one Indian side, like that. I received a message from Indian side. You see, we are facing some kind of dilemma, whether government of India allowed us or not. Remain southern Tibet, then try to talk with Chinese military authorities in Lhasa. But then when we received the information, now bombardment already started. Then no hope, then escape.
Then someone said, good luck. Then that was the voice of His Holiness Lord Chamberlain, who was guiding that particular party. Then I knew His Holiness had crossed. 2 monks who looked after me when I was in the monastery, and I said goodbye to them. And both of them said, don't forget what you have memorized, try to recite them. We used to write, right? And I used to talk on horseback. There's a particular person, tall chap, who's quite a character. He's always laughing, this and that. Then he's in front of me, and then after some time, to be more comfortable, he puts his leg, cross leg on the saddle, and then riding, going slowly. And because we have to go slowly, we have to keep in mind the soldiers are walking. I think we had 2 of them. And then he used to fall off. Yeah. My mother, she walked, and after some time, she was provided a pony. Then it's not completely dark. No, you can find out what phase of the moon, because you can see. Then there's something special I had inside the pocket. I had a Luger.
Yeah.
Yes.
Pistol.
A pistol. Then on my belt, I had a holster which carried 36 bullets. And then, of course, my mother and sister, they were dressed up more colorful, but they are dressed up as men, and they had a big scarf around their neck and a cap to, conceal their face.
When I was in southern Tibet, some kind of dysentery developed. And then my body became very weak. But you see, because of danger, I have to actually go like that. And then when I reach Tawang, physical condition day by day improved. Then finally reached Bomdila. I can't remember, but maybe I think 10 days, more than 10 days I think, remained there. So when I reached the Bomdila, here's the official residence, you see all modern facilities there. And plus, you see the Har Mander Singh and his wife, really consider, we also developed then some kind of same family, reunion, something, reunion, that feeling. So when I saw from, I think at least, you see, a few hundred, I think, meters, when I saw it in their face, I immediately recognized as a old friend. And beside that, official of government of India. So he take full care with his wife. My meal, everything, quite near the Indian border. You see, some the pass very high and snowy, quite tiresome, and also the horse really find difficulties. Then one aeroplane comes. So everybody sort of frightened. If the Chinese aeroplane, if shoot, very easy. We in the snow, white, the horse black, and dress also black. So very clear target. That very night. You see, we slept with all our dress ready to go like that. So few occasions, really frightened. One Tibetan monk, now his age now 96 or 97. He's still here. You see, after 59, he was at that time when I leaving Nopulinga, he was in Nopulinga. Then he also, become a prisoner. The next, I think, 17, 18 years, he remained in Chinese prison, Chinese gulag. So in early 80, like some other Tibetan, then have the opportunity come to India with Chinese permission. So then, one occasion, we are casual talk. Then he mentioned, during about 18 years in Chinese prison, he faced some dangers. Then I thought, danger on his life, maybe like that. And I asked, what kind of danger? His answer is danger of losing compassion towards Chinese. As a practitioner, very seriously concerned. The keeping compassion and forgiveness is so important. So when situations are such sort of difficulties, that practice is a little sort of a danger to losing that practice, and they consider that's a dangerous situation. Wonderful. As a result, that old person mentally very happy. Physically, because of Chinese torture, he cannot go like that.
I think there's tremendous sense of freedom, happiness, joy, and for many, I think there was looking forward to start a new life as a refugee.
This is Tenzin Chogyal, the youngest brother of the Dalai Lama at the age of 3. Later, he was recognized as Nari Rinpoche, an incarnation of the spiritual leader of several monasteries in Nari, a large region in western Tibet. I was having tea with his wife, Rinchen Kandro, and there were photographs around the room, and I said, oh, are these Heinrich Herrers? I thought so because of the black and white nature of them, and she said, yes, they are. The hand retouching this was $25,000, and to print the caption information was another $25,000. Each box ran $600. And then you'd have to selenium tone it because the selenium changes the color. So you'd have to run a couple of tests, dry it, run it through the selenium, air dry it, the whole thing, and then you'd pick the best exposure.
I mean, that's the first time I've seen my aunt with, and that's His Holiness, Assamese rifleman. Yeah. Yes. Oh, there's Mamaji. Yeah. There.
This is in Chudangmo.
I went to school. I enjoyed school. I became a college dropout. Then I had my hippie days. And then I rediscovered values of Buddhist philosophy. Enjoyed studying. I'm still studying. And then I was able to go and be a soldier for a while, which I used to dream about. We cherish freedom. We want to do something that we can do out of freedom. We don't want to be governed. We don't want people to tell us what to think. Government of India did whatever they could, particularly, in the past. But now I don't know what's going to happen. If the leaders of this country becomes Tibetan presence and Dalai Lama's presence in India an obstacle for better relation with China, then I think we had it. Tibetans can be persecuted just to please the Chinese.
We know that people have been caught. Quite a few of them disappear, or they end up in Chinese detention centers, and it's very difficult. Or what happens to them. So that's something, unfortunately, China has succeeded in making Tibet very opaque for outsiders. Along the border between Tibet and India and Nepal, there's a network of apparently unmanned drones, unmanned aerial vehicles that can alert authorities when there's people or people that are in unauthorized locations. There's apparently use of radar technology to also monitor acoustic listening devices that can sense abnormal sounds or the sounds being made by people in those areas. Even in the capital Lhasa, there's apparently over 600 convenience police stations, one every 200 or 300 meters across the entire city. These police stations can respond anytime somebody is not where they're supposed to be or doing any sort of unacceptable public display or protest. And there are cases where people feel so desperate that they basically burn themselves in protest of Chinese rule. Several hundred people have done this, and it's quite a tragedy to realize how little hope Tibetans have that they see suicide essentially as a form of protest.
Unless you can, by burning myself, if I get a good result and guaranteed result, then I might burn. But otherwise, why take a chance? Why kill yourself? Life, as a human, your life is very precious. You know the story of Joan of Arc. No, you never know. Anything that we do, particularly political moves, which affect so many lives, if it's not governed by some kind of ethical value, then we have become like animals.
The key prayers is prayer of compassion, that you pray for the whole world, for everybody, and that you can do by walking, by eating, by sleeping all the time. But they have certain prayers that they have to say according to their routine, and which they do every day. This particular education became available for the nuns in exile, again, all because of His Holiness's initiative and his vision. Because he said that just because you shave your hair and wear a nun's robe, that doesn't make you a nun. To really understand the path, you need to be educated.
We want white shorts.
While we were in the process of educating the nuns that were already in exile, there was a huge influx of nuns from Tibet in 1987. And that happened because there was a demonstration in Lhasa by the groups of nuns to protest and say, please get out of Tibet. So of course, in saying this, many of them got imprisoned, their nunneries got shut down, and the way they suffered in the prison, so many of them got beaten, tortured, raped, and then after they were let out of the prisons, their nunneries were closed down, they couldn't go back anywhere, so they decided to escape. And they escaped from Tibet via Nepal to India. So that was the time when we said we need a new nunnery. So that's how this nunnery was envisioned for them to stay. Focusing on the education of the nuns has a very interesting history, which is in our free Tibet, when we were all free in Tibet, there was no education for the nuns. There was this wonderful, profound system of education for the monks, which is why we have what we have today. I think that was the case in many parts of the world in those days. They felt that the nuns need not be educated because they're nuns, they're women. But they were allowed to go and do the retreat and be focused on spiritual practices, which they did. But what I'm talking about is this formal education that we have today. Before we started anything, we had to really look into their health problems because so many were traumatized. And just one thing that hits me every time I think about this is, they were nuns whose kidneys were totally damaged because they had so much kicking from the prison guards. So we had to change their kidneys. We had to take them out. And then also there were nuns whose toes were frozen and cut because they had to run over the snow-capped mountains to Nepal and then to India. And then, of course, to deal with trauma that they went through in the prison. And in Tibet in general was something else because they would wake up in the middle of the night and start crying and walking around. After all the difficulties, I'm very happy today to say that the nuns have really done well, and they have now, 23 of them have done their highest exams 2 years ago in philosophy, and they have all become doctorates, and it's equal to the degree that the monks carry. While we are in India, we want to live in a way that we have the purpose clear in our minds, which is whether we go back to a free Tibet soon or not. The point is we need to keep the culture and the identity and the language of Tibet alive.
Alrighty, you want to go to the medical center? This is the way to nearby.
This kind of thing that we met in the street.
Sure. And are you here for a few days? Yes. Okay. You can contact my office and
This is taken at the rooftop of the Chakpuri, which was the Tibetan Medical College. While Har Mander Singh was there, it was the oldest medical and astrological college in Tibet. And by the time he returned in 1982, the college had been destroyed and there was a masthead instead. Basically, this shot depicts it's a call to prayer. And this is a telescoping trumpet that can be heard throughout the valley. Tibet had been in my dreams since childhood. I yearned to be an explorer and plan my life for adventure and discovery. What I could not have known were the personal and historical events that led me to travel and live in Tibet for the happiest and most significant years of my life. 7 years that changed me forever.
come in from London?
Min means medicine, Si means astroscience, Kang means institute or house like that. So this institute was established by the great 13th Dalai Lama in 1916 in Tibet. The present Dalai Lama, he re-established Menzi Kang in 1961. So we, in 2-3 days' time, we are celebrating 103rd year.
How is medicine practiced in Tibet?
In Tibet, medicine is based on herbal syrup. So we collect herbs all over the Himalayan regions. Tibet is very rich in herbal medicine, and till 59, many doctors, and there are some institutes, mainly Menzi Kang. Then there are some other institutes also, so and few schools. So and then in exile, when this institute was re-established, then we recruit students. Primarily, the patients are more Tibetans. Then they switch over to a clinic where patients are primarily Indians and in cities. And most of the city-based clinics are sponsored by some Indian philanthropists or businessmen who have been cured of Tibetan medicine. These are the main sources of income to dispense free medicine to the Tibetan refugees. China, we can put into 3 stages. From 1959 to 1969, they were all out for destruction. They have completely destroyed the great Chapari Medical College established by the great 5th Dalai Lama. And the Hasa Menzi Kang, where we are at, that was also completely closed. Many of the great doctors in prison, many died in prison. But then after 69 till early 80s, they didn't destroy it. But at the same time, they were saying, oh, no big deal about Tibetan medicine, it's just a subsect of Chinese medicine. But now today, they're promoting as China's Tibetan medicine. In fact, the Chinese princess who married the 33rd Emperor Tibet, she was a great astrologer herself. So she brought many astrological texts from China and then taught astrology in Tibet. So that's why Tibetan astrologers, they have the knowledge of the Chinese as well as Indian, plus our native astrology.
May I consult with a doctor?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
First, we are trying to cause. When we see a patient, we mostly give more advice on diet, lifestyle. Lifestyle includes physically and mentally. Even the sleep or these things, we have to educate very well. Each of the fingers have 2 organs. Like here, like a heart, small intestine.
Small intestine.
Yeah. This is like a spleen, the stomach. Left kidney, something.
You're checking one side and the other, and you're checking them both to see if they balance.
Life in the world is not easy. Everybody has a suffering, but because we make this bigger. If there's a little problem, then we make it very big.
I do get tired.
Yeah.
How's my mental state?
Mental state, okay, but maybe because of what we say like wind, rough energy, which is not give you strength, but it disturbs stimulate your systems. Okay. So that give you physically nervous. Mentally, you cannot hold your mind. Your mind running around because of the wind blows, carries your mind away. You should not add more, too much coffee, too much tea. Then this will become more. Okay. Then the wind increases. Many reduce the wind, the rough nature or tendency in the body. Okay. Relax your system. So they prescribe some medicine for to calm you down and also give you soothingness. This kind of herbs.
What do you feel about Western doctors?
The science medicine and the herbal medicine, natural medicine combined together. The science have all the techniques, all the technologies. If we combine together, then can be the best medical system can be.
This is monks from the Ecclesiastical College bowing in respect to 3 of the 4 heads of the Tibetan cabinet, followed by his 2 cabinet ministers, one of whom is Sirkang and the other is Ragasha. There's a 4th cabinet minister who's not here because he's dealing with the possibility of the Chinese communist invasion. This fellow here is Lukang, and at that point he was the finance minister. He said he never gambled, and when I spoke to Hara, he said, oh, that's true. He was very serious. He only gambled 1 day a year, and this was the 1 day a year that he gambled, and he only played show, no mahjong. Later he became the prime minister, but the Chinese forced him out. The next person we have here is Young Rampa. His brother is the head of the Chinese cabinet. Over here we have a fellow, Rimshi Pemba, who is Sikkimese, and Rimshi Pemba bought the Leica C3 camera in Sikkim, and he brought it up, and his wife chided him for wasting money, so he went to Har Mander Singh and asked him to buy the camera. Hara shared the camera with a monk who was demoted when he was caught with the camera, so it became Hara. So this is the Sikkimese fellow. By the way, he drowned in 1950 in a flood. And this is Ragasha, also of the cabinet. And if you look carefully, you can see in their hair they've got special headdresses, so to speak, and you can actually tell their rank from the hairdo and also from the earrings that they're wearing.
We function like any other government. In the long run, as per His Holiness' vision, is to have a democratic system, elected leaders, take over the political leadership and lead the Tibetan movement moving forward. We've been saying for the last 60 years, if you want to understand China, you must understand Tibet and Tibetan narrative. Then only you will fully understand what China is capable of. The Human Rights Committee of German Parliament, Bundestag, just released a statement supporting middle way approach of the Tibetan people and criticizing human rights violation in Tibet. Japan has formed the largest parliamentary support group in the whole world with 91 members. And the US Congress passed a bill on Tibet, Reciprocal Access to Tibet Act, signed by President Trump. And the US government also increased funding for us, so on and so forth. You can clearly see there's a reverse trend. Things that we have built for the last 60 years under great leadership of His Holiness Dalai Lama. But also it reflects that Tibetan people are resilient. They're hardworking, determined, resilient. Maybe we are a little polite and we are a little less noisy, but resilient. So I think that reflects that from a civilization that was almost destroyed, that's Buddhism, the fact that we have rebuilt and revived in exile and it's spread all over the world shows that culturally we have succeeded. We believe the Lamas are the manifestation of Buddha compassion. Buddha compassion and Tibet are inseparable. Similar Tibetan people and the Lamas are inseparable. So one time His Holiness was giving a teaching in Minnesota. So he got in the car and I also got in the car and he asked me, so did you understand what I was teaching? And I said, you have to be very honest with him. Your Holiness, I said, while you were teaching, I could understand 50-60% of what you were saying. But as soon as you stopped or ended teaching, I said, the whole thing disappeared. But I said, but as a leader, I have problems or challenges. And I said, but it makes my problem smaller. And His Holiness said, no. Problem never gets smaller. Problem remains the same. Your perspective becomes bigger and more holistic. That's why the problem looks smaller. A great Indian Nalanda scholar, Shantideva, has said, and as a leader, I find it very helpful. He said, if you can solve a problem, why worry about it? If you cannot solve a problem, what is the point of worrying about it? Fundamentally, the basic quality of leader has to be compassion. If you are not compassionate towards a cause or organization or anything that you pursue, then your commitment will not be genuine. Then you'll be doing it for something else. You'll be doing it for name, fame. But then when you actually do it, when the name doesn't come, fame doesn't come, power doesn't come, money doesn't come, you get disappointed, you get depressed, and then you become a bad leader. But if you're doing it based on compassion, you're doing it for the needy, the poor, the sick, the old, the children. Then, because you're not expecting anything, but you are doing wholeheartedly from your side, right? So whether you succeed or not, whether you get fame, name, money, power or not, is secondary. So that gives you the contentment, maybe an element of happiness. So that's why compassion is a basic quality of leader. If you're a compassionate person, then you become a kind person. So hence, it's essential. So what we lack in this world is a little bit of compassion, a little bit of kindness.
Somehow the world society is spiraling out of control. When even some of our greatest and most loved stars are losing their struggles, we are all part of a collective pain. How do we change? There is hope. Young leaders are rising up with strength, courage, and conviction, making meaningful changes and impacting the world. The Dalai Lama is calling for more young people everywhere to rise up and to lead a new generation, and to create a compassionate worldwide revolution based on love.
If people are now becoming compassionate, and people are starting to care about each other, and people are starting to give, then what's that going to do for capitalism? It's art that is going to carry the flame. It's the art that is going to be the influence that will make people think correctly, change their minds, start to give, start to learn. And the arts will be the thing that inspires this generation to go through this change successfully. Everybody needs to meditate. It should be taught in schools. It should be part of the school curriculum. All the answers are within. We have to learn to banish negative thoughts about ourselves and about others, because we all have negative thoughts about others. We've all got opinions that are ingrained in us, and we have to learn to put those negative thoughts into check, letting people know that we are one consciousness, one community. The colour of your skin or your background or your religion actually make no difference whatsoever. They're all the same underneath.
Sit in a 5-point posture, gaze the horizon of the sky, and if you look at the vastness of the sky, if you connect with the vastness of the sky, if you connect long enough vastness of the sky, you naturally feel deep, heart-opening experiences. Whole entire your being, a sense of openness can feel, and you can experience that by being present with the sky. So something that you might not be able to experience thinking or talking about it many hours, but sitting maybe 5-10 minutes, you feel that power.
When I look like a long-time old friend, then that reminds me, now me also old. But when I look glass, my own face, it looks not that old. So meeting old friend is useful to remind me, myself also now getting older. So I very much appreciate, I think maybe 2 weeks or something, at Mondilla, his house. Yeah. Or, firstly, mentally, when I escaped, even if the fear about my own life, the night, 17th March 1959, when I saw their face, firstly, some kind of reunion, and secondly, then completely safe.
That episode or that period has lingered on in my heart, and but more than me, His Holiness has been, as avatars are, kindness embodied. Whenever we meet, and wherever we meet, he's so generous with love that I get overwhelmed.
In Sanskrit tradition, the key message and practice is altruism. Altruism. And consider, entire sentient being is you should consider as dear as your own mother. Then we daily practice that. And backing, say, not just faith towards Buddha, but analytical meditation. This self-centered attitude, what value? Very harmful. Altruistic mental attitude, immense benefit. So use extensively intelligence. So analyze different kind of emotion. What emotion beneficial to one's own peace of mind and eventually health also. What kind of emotion very bad for our health. Not only destroy peace of mind, but physically also very, very negative effect. These are analytical meditation. Analyze. My own family, particularly my mother, very, very kind, very compassionate. I always describe the first my guru about compassion is my mother. Constantly experience anger, stress, fear, very bad for our health. Some scientists say such destructive emotion actually eating our immune system. All the tradition, you see, carry message of love. And in order to practice love more effectively, you also need practice of tolerance. Our century, I think, full of problems, killing, violence. So beginning of this 21st century, some of these violence is the result of past centuries mentality. My number one commitment is try to promote human love and compassion and cultivate a great sense of oneness of entire humanity. Not only nation to nation, but continent to continent, every interdependent. And now global warming also now telling us human beings on this small planet should work together, should live together. Yes. So therefore, now we really need sense of oneness of humanity and develop concern well-being of entire human being. So, a lot of problems which we are facing is essentially our own creation. So now my commitment is preservation of the Tibetan tradition. I totally personally dedicated for preservation of this knowledge. Ancient Indian knowledge is very, very useful. So now, for that reason, now I fully committed. My latest commitment is try to revival of this ancient Indian knowledge in modern India.
Tibet is the source of 5 of Asia's great rivers. So it has humongous water resources. And as we kind of enter an era where climate change is going to make water scarcity a bigger problem, the fact that China is damming rivers that flow to Thailand, India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, and where millions of people, hundreds of millions of people rely on these waters that are now under Chinese control and being dammed by Chinese infrastructure development projects in Tibet, that's going to have huge repercussions for countless people living downstream. China doesn't share any data about the impacts these dams will have on water flow downstream. But recently, with the Mekong River, which flows from Tibet through Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam, so one of the lifebloods of Southeast Asia, recently a group of researchers used satellites to analyze water levels along these dams to identify and basically prove that China had been not meeting its obligations for downstream flows. So they found basically by using satellite imagery that drought that was taking place in Thailand and Vietnam and Cambodia could be tied to decisions made by Chinese dams and the managers upstream. Tibet is one of the most remote countries, regions in the world. It's the border between India and Nepal is the Himalayan mountains. Mount Everest is one of the borders points between Tibet and Nepal. The fact that this region that was once so remote, so inaccessible, and so difficult for foreigners and Westerners to reach is now kind of deeply surveyed by China using all these different technologies connected by 4G and 5G cellular towers shows just how much things have changed there since the Chinese occupation began.
This is a prayer, 3 syllables, Om, Hum, which means sky, opening your heart. Om, being aware of it, connecting with it like a light, illuminating the darkness. Third is Hum, allowing this warmth to manifest, radiate to the rest of the world, sharing that light and warmth. There are people who sit for a whole day. There are people who sit for 5 minutes. So in between 5 minutes, the whole day, you have a lot of options.
Zara hat ke, zara bach ke, ye boundary la meri jaan.
I would like to give you a souvenir. Chocolate.
I go straight east of Tibet to Lhasa for 18 months.
For as long as space remains. For as long as sentient beings remain. Until then, may I too remain. To dispel the miseries of the world. Close your